Hello and welcome back to the Freelanceverse. Thanks for coming back to the channel once again. Today live from the forest. It was way too hot to work in the house or in a cafe today, so I thought, you know what? Let's pack things up, let's go in the forest, find a nice table in the shade. That's, by the way, why it's so important to get a laptop with a good battery and a phone with a good battery and a mobile plan so you can hotspot, you know. Definitely think of that when you buy your equipment for freelancing, because this kind of freedom is invaluable for me. It's amazing. So for today's video, I thought we could hop into a time machine and go 10 years into the future, into 2035, and explore the language industry. See what kind of jobs there will be, what kind of the environment will be, what the role of humans will be in 10 years. Now, obviously, it's impossible to predict, right? We have no idea what will be in 10 years, but I thought it could be a fun thought experiment, just, you know, to share my point of view. But this is very personal and, you know, take everything with a grain of salt. I just thought, why not look into 10 years into the future? So it's currently estimated that within 5 years, by 2030, 30% of working hours in Europe, that is now the labor market, the workforce, could be automated. And that's only in 5 years, 30%. So imagine in 10 years, that number will be even way bigger. And that can, of course, provides a lot of opportunity and possibilities for business, but it's also a huge risk and creates a lot of challenges. And to tackle this, I feel like Europe or the world as a whole will need to find a way to enforce human capital, to you know, to put humans in the center stage again, right? Because and it's interesting because usually governments and regulatory bodies are faced with challenges like protecting their people from other people usually, right? But now it's this whole new scenario where you have to protect humanity from another source, kind of an outside source. So it's interesting to see what will happen in terms of regularities. There definitely needs to be more regulation for AI. I feel like the more people, the lay people get into it and it just becomes common practice to use it every day, the scarier it becomes for me. Because already now, it's after a few years of people using LLMs, there seems to be almost no hindrance anymore. People just, you know, from their deepest fear to their medical history, just put everything in there with a free account even, and it's scary. So I would definitely implore you to just be careful, be mindful with what you put in there. Data will be your currency even more in the future. Really try your best to protect that, to protect your own space, to protect profiling. Apart from the whole, you know, environmental story about AI, that's a whole nother topic. But that's also not the topic of this video, so just a quick reminder, be mindful with AI when you use it. So first of all, let's look into the future. Regardless of the fact whether you think that we are heading in a direction where there will be no jobs left for us, whether we are heading in a direction where it's actually reversing it again, the trend, and there will be a lot of jobs for us. Whatever you think, one thing is clear: the world is becoming more and more interconnected. So if you're working with languages, if you're passionate about communication and languages, that should excite you at face value, right? It's more and more needed to be interconnected. And especially if you're a tech-savvy language enthusiast, the language industry will need you in one form or the other, right? So that's, first of all, that's good news when I project my vision into the future. But this global communication in 2035 will be far from what we know now, right? It will be instant. First of all, it will be intelligent in some sorts, and it will be an afterthought. I'm quite sure it will be an afterthought. There will be not even people will not remember that one day. Back in the day, 10 years ago, it was hard to understand a video in a foreign language on YouTube, for example, if there will still be YouTube. It will be not even a thing anymore to think about that, because everything will be readily available in your language, in your dialect, in your localized version. So that's definitely something that I'm thinking about constantly, how that will change our profession as well, this instant availability of all sorts of language dialects. Even if I'm convinced even like the deepest dialects of Africa, it will just be readily available in 10 years anyways. So where does that leave us language professionals? Now I want to share my opinions about that in a very transparent, very honest, just, you know, talking person to person, what I feel like, what I think. So, you know, you hear a lot of people saying, oh, AI will take over everything, or AI will never be able to take over translations because it's just too hard. So you always have these extremes, right? And as much as I I'm interested in both views. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. Yes, machine translation, AI will be everywhere in 2035. It will not even be, as I said, not even a thought. It will just be readily available. It will be built into browsers, phones, chips, wherever. If we will have chips somewhere in the brain. Operating systems for sure, maybe smart glasses or smart lenses even. So for generic everyday communication, it will be perfectly fine, perfectly enough use case to use MT AI for that. But that is not your market. That's not our market as language professionals. And that's the key for me. By 2035, the language professionals that will succeed will not be the ones that will try to undercut the machine output, because you will have no chance. It will be the ones that carved out a spot in the industry for themselves as professionals, as experts, both linguistically and professionally, like in a business mindset, right? So I'm convinced the language industry market will still be there, but it will reward those who specialize, who understand their clients, who speak the clients' languages in more ways than one, not only like in communications, but learning how they understand the world. How you have to be a business partner to them, not a vendor, but an expert, a service provider. If you're just sitting around waiting for jobs to come in from agencies, that will not cut it anymore. Somewhere in the next 10 years, it will slowly dry out and you will have to find another job. I'm sorry, I said I'm going to be honest, but I don't think this agency model that we see now will continue in that way. It will just not be fast enough in this instant world. So you have to raise your game. You have to provide real value to your clients as a language professional, as a language expert. I'm going to share a lot of potential jobs in a couple of minutes that I think might exist in the future. I don't know what job title you will give to yourself. It's also an exciting time now because most of these job titles, they don't exist yet. So you could potentially be the first one to adopt one of these and be at the forefront of a new innovation in language tech, right? So you could be the first of this job title and go to the client and say, look, I'm the world's first this, can I work with you? So as I said, a lot of risks, a lot of challenges, but also a lot of opportunities for us. So yeah, sorry, just checking my notes. So yeah, the middle of the market is getting squeezed. I see that already now. A lot of generalists, unfortunately, have to leave the industry. If you don't specialize, if you don't upskill, if you don't adapt, you will struggle in the future. But if you're great at what you do and if you're strategic and creative, there is definitely a space for you. What I think is an interesting or an important sentence to keep in mind is that in 2035, clients will pay for your insight, and not for your output. That's a difference in perspective, right? At the moment, also me, I'm kind of creating output and I'm charging the output for the client. That's my product, right? And I'm trying to find a way to shift that so that my product is actually not the output, but the insight. So it could even be before creating the output that I could be in the workflow, right? Even before, if for some reason translation is completely cut in this workflow, I will still have a spot before the translation workflow in the language industry and in ideation, in creation, So I'm trying to shift that a bit from output to insight, and I think that's an interesting sentence that you can also take to heart. Think what more you can bring to the table, as not just simply translation. I know that a lot of hardcore translators don't like to distance themselves from the term translator. I see that at TEF, for example, often people voice that opinion that we are translators, we want to stick to that name. That's perfectly fine if you want to. I just think that I see in the negotiations with my direct clients, I see that just the term translator sometimes doesn't cut it anymore. It's not impressive enough. But then if I say something like, I'm a multilingual market expert that can help you increase your sales for a Swiss audience, suddenly they are interested, right? It's a fancy long name. In the end, what I do is localization. It's not different, but like when you have a conversation with someone, you're also kind of adapting your style depending on who's sitting there, right? You're not talking the same to your teacher as you would to your best friend, I think. Or maybe you do, I don't know. But I definitely adapt a bit to my counterpart, and that's the same in business communication. So again, a quick summary before I head on to the future job titles. My personal opinion is that the industry that we see now with the current agency model, with the current what freelancers do to establish themselves, is going to die if it's not already dead, right? I definitely see that this industry will not exist like that in 10 years. Now, but this industry, or it's not the industry, like this working model dying is not necessarily the end of us, definitely not of all of us. And if you're here, you already have a mindset of awareness and of wanting to learn to become future-proof, so you're already ahead of 90%. This is great. So this workflow dying might be the end of this workflow, but it's not the end of you. You're human, you can overcome, you have the ability to be creative, to think outside of the box. If you are already established as an expert and you're at the top of your game, at the top of your industry, you will be fine, you will be needed in the industry, definitely. Even as a translator, there will be still, I don't know, maybe 25% of traditional translators will still be needed by then. So you did the hard work, well done, you are there, and you will be the experts in the field and you will be needed. If you're not there yet, if you're maybe working as a generalist and you feel like you haven't made enough impact yet in the industry, or you're just starting out, then that's not the end of your career, not at all. It's still the beginning. You can still go way up from there, but it might be time, it might be needed for you to evolve. So instead of saying the workflow of the industry is dying, say the workflow of the industry is evolving, same as it always has over the last year, right? This disruption is definitely going to be massive and bigger than what you've ever seen before. But if you're ahead of your time and you can incorporate some of the future jobs that I'm about to say into your workflow, you might be the first one, you might be the 10th one, and that's still very early, right? So instead of despairing and leaving the industry, because every industry will be faced with this, right? It's not limited to the language industry. I said 30% of working hours will be automated in 5 years. So it might be half of the working hours in 10 years. So every industry will have to think and reimagine what humans actually do in this world now, right? Maybe we can create some kind of system where we all don't have to work and we can just make money by selling our data and just get royalties for our thoughts or something. Like if it gets to that, fair enough. I hope we will still kind of find a purpose in life. I don't know. I will be fine. I will just come here in the forest and just chill here. But whatever happens, always try to stay at the forefront. There is no point in despairing. Like, you will always find something to do, even if you have a rough patch and you have to work another job for a couple of years to get yourself back on track. For me, I always think life's too short to despair. Something will happen, I will figure it out. But anyways, if it's time for you to evolve, I have quite a lot of some more fictional, some less fictional future jobs in here. I will just go through them because it's a long list and say 1 or 2 sentences about what I imagine this person would do. It starts with a rather normal job that already exists now, and I think will be still very much needed in 10 years, which is a Transcreation Specialist. So more than translators, they will recreate for a new audience ad campaigns, brand slogans. Trans creators are already now some of the most highly paid language professionals. So if you can specialize in transcreation, definitely do that. That's a great way to go. Next up, localization QA testers. These are very detailed, obsessed individuals that test localizations in apps, in websites. So you're really doing the quality assurance testing of the end product of localization. That will be very important already now. Localization architects is what I like to call someone who is kind of what I said before. Instead of after the localization thought, you are building together with the client the localization infrastructure. If translation is cut out of the localization workflow, you will be the one that's building the system, that the new system that doesn't require translation anymore, together with the client beforehand. Prompt engineers for language models, already very relevant now. It's also kind of controversial. At TEF we had a talk of someone saying prompt engineer is not really a job. Anyways, it's interesting, definitely. It's good to know how to write prompts. Sometimes prompts can be so long, 10,000 words, so you get exactly what you want from the LLM. Great way to, especially now, very easy way to learn about AI right now, to learn some prompt engineering skills. So definitely a way to go. Linguistic UX designers. These people shape how language appears and flows in digital products. Great way if you're creative, if you have a design flair, that's a great way to go. Virtual voiceover artists. More and more voiceovers are done by virtual voices, and someone will have to oversee these synthetic voices, right? So it's kind of artists that guide the training and the fine-tuning of these AI voice models. So if you're very tech-savvy with a great linguistic background, this could be a nice job title to call yourself. Multilingual editors. podcast editors, video editors. They don't just clean the audio, but they shape the narrative across languages. So that will be interesting because they manage voiceovers, translations, subtitles, everything that is cultural in a piece of content in order to reach a global audience. AI dubbing reviewers. If AI dubbing becomes widespread across all content data, someone will have to oversee the AI dubbing, right? So you need to make sure to review it, that it's relevant for films, shows, e-learnings, whatever, relevant to the audience, relevant to the location, etc. Language curator is something I like, kind of like an art curator, right? It's a professional who selects, refines, and maintains language content for a specific purpose. So again, like many of these jobs, you would work at the intersection of linguistics, AI, and brand awareness, kind of. So language curator, I like it. Has a nice ring to it. Now we're getting a bit more abstract. Neurolocalization Specialist. You adapt content not only linguistically, but also like neurologically, like psychologically. So you're using neuroscience, like neural pathways, to make sure that the message hits the brain of the audience, right? That gets really into the grit of things. Fine language teacher, kind of like fine arts, right? When the computer took over arts and animation, etc., everyone thought, oh, the arts is over, but fine arts is still everywhere, right? So I'm thinking of old language before everything became more standardized due to AI models and every text sounds the same. Fine language will become an art. So you might be a fine language teacher, a fine language curator as part of an art. Next up, I have multilingual copywriter. As I said, if language becomes an afterthought, you have to be the one who can provide multilingual texts, blog posts, content. I don't know how that will happen, in which form, with the help of AI or not, but that's definitely something that comes to mind. Instead of simply a copywriter, you have to become multilingual and adapt your content based on the reader. Cultural Intelligence Advisor. I like that title. It's kind of I don't know, cultural intelligence will become more important than ever, I think. You could, for example, consult on companies expanding to new regions, helping them avoid culture mishaps, shape their localization messages, interpret linguistic signals from the target markets, from their audiences, etc. Language identity designer. The more standardized texts become online, the more important it will be for brands to have a language identity, to use language as part of their brand. And us as language professionals know exactly how to do that. So brand designer, identity designer, language, cultural identity is something that we should focus on and that we can really sell our services with. Extended reality or virtual reality interpreter. I think that will come relatively soon, that kind of in XR or VR environments, people will use interpreters. So you might be sitting in a conference room, not actually there, but virtually, and be the interpreter in a conference. So that sounds kind of exciting for me. That could be a cool thing to look into if you're interpreting already now. Linguistic risk analyst. If you have a legal background, that's a great way to go. You would audit content, translations, AI output for legal risks, for potential reputational flags. You would flag language that might be misunderstood by an audience, by a certain community within a country, for example. So risk analysis will become more important than ever with AI content being used. You could be the one if you have a legal background. Ethical language consultant. One thing that is always hard with AI generated output is that the ethical value, the human touch is not there anymore, right? So you could be the one that advises companies on ethical output, like if the output is ethical, if they are bias aware of certain AI systems, how is the public messaging, how is the global output perceived by the audience. Kind of in the similar vein, accessibility and inclusive language specialist or localization specialist. So you would be the one localizing the content to make it accessible for people with disabilities, with impairments, etc. So that's already something you can look into now if that interests you. That's a big market. Chatbot Facilitator. The more and more we use chatbots, we need someone to oversee them, to be the boss of the machine. That could be you. You could do that remotely, freelance. You could be the boss of the chatbots for a company, and just when there is something flagged by the user, you would get in there and actually be the human that mediates things. Data privacy and compliance specialist. Again, if you are in a legal background, if you have data privacy compliance knowledge, it will be so important. You're probably in the best position if you have linguistic knowledge and data privacy knowledge. Your career might skyrocket, because I can't imagine how companies will deal with that. everyone just uses free models and just puts everything in there about their data. So definitely focus on that sector if you can. Machine-human translator, we might need someone, instead of working with the client for translation, we need to work with actually directly with the machine for them to understand us and for us to understand them. And the last one I have, virtual tone guardian, or simply tone guardian, kind of goes in the same vein as brand identity. If a company has a tone that they want to adhere to, they need a human to be the brand guardian, so to see if the content kind of deviates from the message that they want to put out there. There you go, a lot of information for you. Maybe rewatch it, take notes. You can always ask me to make videos on specific jobs that I had in mind here. I went through the list quite quickly. This was took a lot of preparation, this video, but it was also interesting for me because I also am in the same boat. I also need to evolve, reevaluate my business and kind of re-engineer the language industry to my advantage. I see a lot of post comments asking like, how do you enter the industry? My advice is always, don't contain yourself to one thing. Don't just be a translator. It's not, it can be your main thing, but just be open, be creative, like try something new. Especially if you're freelance, you can be anything you want and you can be the first of all of these things. I checked on LinkedIn for most of these job titles and I didn't really see anyone, right? So you could be the first one to do any of these and it could have a lasting impact for a whole generation to come. As you see, I always try to leave a bit of a positive message on this channel because there is enough negativity everywhere else. So obviously, if you're here watching this, you want to believe in the future of the industry, you want to believe in the future of humanity. Same as me. Make sure to go outside, touch grass. It's the best thing you can do, and it's where you're most creative, at least for me. So maybe it just takes a walk in the forest to find your next move in the industry. I see you next Monday with another video. Take care. Bye bye.